But let's turn now to the tech fight that has really kind of captured the tech world's focus for the last week or so, and that is what's happening between Apple and the new email app Hey. And we're joined now by David Handmeyer Hansen. He is the CTO at Hey. And David, there's been developments just today on your latest kind of apps update getting approved by the App Store. Can you give us just an update of where things stand today and how satisfied you are with the resolution or the truce, I guess you may have reached with Apple to date?
Well, so far, nothing is definitively settled. Apple, very late on Friday night, approved the bug fixes that they had held up all last week. And we're very thankful for that, but they didn't really approve the app sort of definitively. So this morning, we put in a new update that included a bunch of changes that Phil Schiller had asked for in the press. And we're confident that this update is going to get approved, and then we will finally close this issue once and for all, which means that, Hey, our new email service will not be using the in-app payment system to process Apple's payments. We will not be paying the 30% cut that Congressman Cicilline was calling highway robbery, but we will be offering a free anonymized service that we developed just for this purpose to have the app do something when you download it, as Phil Schiller put it. And we're also rolling out Hey for Work on an accelerated basis. We've already onboarded a couple of companies to use Hey for Work, which was the other door that Phil Schiller had opened, that if you do that, you should be good. So we're crossing our fingers, and we're hoping that there's going to be a resolution today. Just before the WWDC keynote kicked off, Apple put our application into review. So it's currently in review. Hopefully, Phil Schiller can take some time out of his busy day to take a look and sign off on whatever approval needs to be signed off on.
And David, I want to ask about that specific phrase you brought up that Phil Schiller said in a statement. I think it was to The Verge or someone that he put in the press, which was the app doesn't do anything when it opens. What was your understanding of what he's getting at there? Because as you've outlined, you and Jason Fried have outlined, like, other apps technically don't do anything, but they're not subject to the same scrutiny that Hey had been subjected to over the last week.
Yeah, we're still quite confused. I don't think it's clear at all what Apple's rules are, but we thought we were following the unwritten rules that Apple had, that if you do a multi-platform SaaS app, you were good to go if you just kept it at the login screen. You weren't signing up new business through the App Store or otherwise relying on Apple to get signups of customers. Now this apparently seems to have changed. Okay, we will follow the changes. We will do what Apple says. This is what we thought we were doing in the first place. We did not expect this to happen. In fact, Apple originally approved our application and only started denying us once we started pushing out bug fixes. So hopefully what Phil Schiller here is saying is the path to go. Someone made a great website called You Download It and It Doesn't Work.com that includes a litany of examples of other applications that work just like this, including several from Apple themselves, where you download the application and it's just a login screen. But hey, if Phil Schiller wants us to offer a free way to try Hey, okay. I mean, Apple has all the power here. We are already dancing to Apple's tune in many ways. We drew a red line under the fact that we were not going to be shaken down for 30% of our business. We would have fought that all the way to the last drop. But Apple has essentially said, no, you can do these other things instead. So we hope that that's the case, and we can get the final resolution later today.
In the techlash that we've seen the last couple of years, as consumers have really woken up to how much power a lot of these companies have, big tech gets lumped together. But I think if you want to say there's companies that are seen as more evil, sort of the bad guys, or more likely to have antitrust. You might put Google in there. You could put an Amazon in there with the power they have. Apple, though, seems to go to the other side. Consumers think they're protecting their privacy a lot. They're not as often getting malware. What do you think about this reputation that Apple seems to have with consumers as a good big tech company?
I think much of that reputation is absolutely earned. Apple does a lot of wonderful things. Their work on privacy and other areas is great, and we applaud that. This is one of the reasons I've been an Apple fan and evangelist for 20 years. I think Apple does a bunch of wonderful things. But I think we've seen this week that Apple is still a monopolist. Even if they do all these other things, they're still a monopolist, and they're still abusing their monopoly with the App Store. I testified in front of Congress in January on this very issue before we even had any problems at all. Plenty of industry observers have rightly pointed out that between the app stores on Google and Apple, you have a complete duopoly there. And for our kind of business, paying $100 a year for premium email service, Apple is just the major market. That is where the consumers who spend that kind of money on subscription software are the most. So for us, this would have been absolutely crushing if Apple had followed through on their threat and kicked us out of the App Store. And that's the immense power they have. They can either allow us to survive and thrive on our own, or they can squash us in a second. And that kind of power, no one should have. And this is why we need regulators. This is why we need the subcommittee that Congressman Cicilline is chairing to do something about this. Restore an open marketplace where we're free to compete, where we're free to bring out new innovative services that consumers are eager to have. And rather than Apple being the sole gatekeeper that simply tells either you paid the 30% toll or consumers won't be able to know you even exist.
David, Dan Roberts here. This App Store issue you guys raised is obviously a very legitimate one. It's one that Spotify dealt with as well. Other companies have had this fight with Apple. So you've been in this struggle with Apple, but also this time has been a pretty good marketing vehicle for you guys, right? I just wanted to ask if you've seen a huge bump in user signups because it's also getting the name of the app out there.
It is. I mean, it's been crazy, actually. We had signed up 30,000 people who were interested in our new service in 5 months. And then just last week, we went over 100,000 in 1 week alone. So yes, in that regard, it's been a bump. But you know what? I would not have chosen it this way. Like, Apple is literally holding our future in their hands. And what good is it going to do us if we sign up 100,000 interested people if Apple next week decides to essentially put this new service out of business? Because make no mistake about it, you cannot launch a major new email service today if you're not available on the iOS platform. That's the power that Apple has. So even if we have all this attention and we have all these consumers who are interested in buying our product, Apple can end that tomorrow if they decide to. So I would not welcome anyone to make this kind of gamble.
When you think about Silicon Valley's love affair with these sort of nascent email services, making things more efficient, more pleasurable, better interface, Superhuman obviously got lots of rave reviews last year, Proton Mail of sorts. When you think about your service, Hey, how is it really differentiating from the kind of saturated market that continues to be growing?
I think this is exactly what people thought, that email was dead, that there's no innovation left in email, that maybe there's been a bunch of apps along the way that people have been excited about. But Hey is not an email app. We're an email service. We're going up head to head with the likes of Google Gmail or Microsoft's Outlook. And I think the last time people were truly excited about a new email service was when Gmail launched 16 years ago. Now, we've spent the past 20 years in the software business building a reputation for being the kind of company that sticks with our products. We don't sell out. We don't take venture capital. We don't do any of these things. And I think that this is kind of paying off, that people are ready to move on to a new email service that do things in a new way. And we have packed Hey full of features and ideas that are really fresh. And we're getting a great reception because of it. But this is in part because this is a new email service. We're not an app. You don't use Hey to check your Gmail. You don't use Hey to check Outlook. No, you get a new @hey.com address, and we'll be introducing custom domains later this year. We're doing our business version, but this is a brand new service. And really, there haven't been a lot of that because we thought we were going up against the titanic fight that is challenging Google with their Gmail near monopoly. That's the fight we thought we were getting into, right? So to wake up and think like, oh, we thought we were fighting Google. Now we also have to fight Apple with the other hand. Okay, that's a challenge. We're 56 people at Basecamp. We hope to be able to grow the company somewhat to deal with the explosion of interest here. We just brought up 5 new people just yesterday. Over the weekend, we brought on 5 new people to help us handle all the incoming interest. But we cannot defeat both Google and Apple. In fact, we can't even defeat Apple. The best we can hope for here is defend our little rebel base, hopefully shine a path that others can follow through, but it's a very narrow path. I mean, if anyone had the disillusion that we were going to kill the in-app payment regime or end the 30%, they were in for a surprise. That is a job for regulators and governments.
Well, a tech story in 2020, if there ever was one, you take on one monopoly, end up fighting a separate monopoly you were unaware was actually the main target. All right, David Hanmeyer-Hansen with the new app Hey, really interesting conversation. Certainly a story we'll be tracking. Hopefully we could talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.